All right, so the first afternoon session is going to be moderated by Michael Crosby, who is an assistant professor of GIS at Louisiana Tech in Ruston, an up-and-coming professor whose hair is getting grayer every time I see him. Michael, here you go.
Thanks very much. It's really my lifelong quest to be the next Pete Bettinger that's got my hair changing colors. As he said, my name is Michael Crosby, and I'll be the moderator for Forest Inventory Modernization and Precision. Krista asked me to remind you, just like all of your freestyle battles, when you turn your head, turn your shoulders in the microphone so that everybody can hear what you say online. I'm going to introduce everybody, and then I'll sit over there with my cool 10, 5, and 0 minute countdown markers and gaff as appropriate, facilitate questions. But our first presentation of 4, I have a brief story to tell, and I admit this to students sometimes. I was one of Tom Matney's graduate students at Mississippi State. I graduated in 2011, and I got a chance to talk to Mark for a second this morning. And I tell my students, like, I worked for the guy that developed T-Cruise, and they stare at me, and I thought it was this awe that they were looking at me with, like, oh, this guy's going to be genius and have lots of insights. And they found out they were wrong. But I think what they were really staring at me for was they were blaming me for everything they were having to deal with in their inventory classes, dealing with T-Cruise. But our first talk today is going to be talking about using Esri technologies for forest inventory, scalable, affordable Android and cloud-based solutions. We're going to hear from Mark Books, Darian Yawn, and Kerry Halligan. Darian is the technical support manager for Landmark Spatial Solutions. We've spoken on the phone before. He received his BS in forest management from the University of Georgia, and they live in Warner Robins. He is not from Mississippi State. That's what his name tag indicates. Mark Books serves as the Geospatial Services Manager for Landmark Spatial Solutions. He has a BS in Forestry from Northland College and Michigan Tech University, a master's in forestry with an emphasis in remote sensing and GIS from Michigan Tech University. And he and his wife are in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And Kerry Halligan is the senior geospatial architect, Mason, Bruce, and Girard. He's a bachelor's degree in terrestrial ecology from Western Washington University, and both an MA and PhD in geography from UC Santa Barbara. Sorry, I can't talk today. Kerry and his family live in Portland, Oregon. But I think Mark is speaking first. Is that right? Right on. Well, I will turn it over to them. Thank you guys very much.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I tell people about this conference is one of my favorite conferences because 1, I always learn so much, but 2, just always the camaraderie as well. And so my compliments to the previous speakers. We're going to build off that foundation, colleagues and friends. So it's great to see them up there. But let me challenge you too. Elizabeth, at the end of her presentation, gave us a great challenge. Talk about what we do. So practice in your sphere of influence. Even come here to SOFOR and present your work. I'd like to learn more. I don't know everything, but I get a lot out of this conference. So I'd like to learn more by hearing your story. And let's all work together so that when someone Google's TED Talks forestry, we've got some relevance there. And there's another place, hey, there's the Esri Forestry Group. Hey, but anyways, before I put you to sleep, because we had that delicious meal, hey, if you guys need to stand up, stretch out, feel free to do that. Look to your left, look to your right for your battle buddy, just to get through the presentation, all right? So thanks so much. So in particular, Joel did a great job of setting the precedents about what RTS Online is all about. Just take that and run with that. That's a great presentation just to communicate the basics of a tool that we're going to be relying on in forestry. Let's get off to our presentation. You see our title there. And in this presentation, we hope to present our combined approach to a modern, efficient, scalable solution for timber inventory data collection, processing, and management. We will discuss and demonstrate how this integrated, by integrated we mean Esri, the cloud, Android, T-Cruise based solution It's helping foresters across the US do their job better. Just a minute as I try and figure this out. Oops. All right, 3 tries, I'm in. This is our game plan for today. Just going to tell you a little bit about our companies and partnership. Put the bottom line up front, why this solution. Kerry will be giving you an overview of the solution. The integratability of the solution will be highlighted with T-Cruise. Darian will talk to that. I'll run through a brief demo. I have some questions and answers, hopefully. You guys have been a little light on the questions and answers, so you got about 50 minutes. Think of something good. And we also want to put a plug in for the next presentation from North Carolina Wildlife, because they are actually implementing this solution. So good and bad, you get to learn how it really works from a real client. All right, let's move on. So a little bit about us. We are a forestry technology company, and we just want to help our clients meet their business objectives better using technology. So our motto is Forestry Technology Simplified. MB&G, celebrating 100 years. So they know something about trees and forestry. Besides their different divisions, they have a geospatial division, from which came a forest inventory system that was GIS based. And they originally developed that for in-house use. So you can see that it's a tool coming from foresters. All right, in our continual conversations with our clients, we've discovered there are some new requirements they're having. And those new requirements are cloud-based, Esri-based, and Android-based. Well, MB&G was looking for someone that could help them, not just with hardware, but also refine their solutions. And that's really been a great, fun and enjoyable challenge to say, hey, we've got a client that wants to take the solution, but we want this enhancement. So solutions all the time growing. And also they were looking for options for compiling and reporting, and T-Cruise meets that goal. So really, why this solution? Well, it's all about the clients and their needs. And so for us, we realized MB&G offered the solutions that our clients were looking for, and that is utilizing the new low-cost devices that improve workflows. It's cloud-based, Esri technology, and also is a valid option to consider when migrating from a Windows-based solution. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Kerry, who will give us an overview of the solution.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Kerry, we can hear you.
I'm just trying to share the screen. Okay, looks like I'm sharing. So first of all, thank you very much, Mark. Sorry I couldn't be there in person with all of you today, but hopefully this comes through adequately here as a virtual component of this presentation. So what I'm going to do is start off by telling you a little bit about the solution from an overview perspective. And we stress always that this is a modern GIS-based solution. So why the focus on a GIS-based solution? Now, first of all, it's because forestry data are geospatial data. They describe real geographic features, forest stands, cruise plots that are out there in the landscape. They're geospatial data, and they ought to be stored in a geospatial system, in a GIS. Now, that hasn't been true historically. Legacy systems are often hybrid systems. And because of that, they end up with 2 distinct workflows. GIS data are often stored in a GIS, the spatial data, and that requires workflows for getting data in and out using shape files or GPX files, waypoint files, making and printing maps as the spatial component. And then a totally different set of workflows for managing the tabular data, importing and exporting with a lot of different systems. So when you transfer that kind of an approach into a true GIS-based solution, it provides the opportunity to reduce these multiple data management systems. And ultimately what that means is we can reduce the amount of import, export, convert, send, email, join, integrate, migrate, and all of that daisy chain of complex workflows that so many of us have had to put up with over the years. And in the end, that helps us make better decisions, make faster decisions, because we can always see data on the map. We can always combine spatial parameters when we're trying to do a data search or an analysis. And ultimately, what most of us really care about is that it's now quicker and easier to get data to and from the field, which is what we really care about. So that explains our interest in a GIS-based system. Why ArcGIS as that GIS? Well, I think one of the important reasons is because Esri is the largest GIS company in the world. They have the largest market share. And that's true across all disciplines, but it's especially true in forestry. And what that means is that your employees, your current employees that you have, but also future employees that you might hire, oftentimes are going to be coming to the workplace or already have within your organization powerful skills in GIS using Esri's software. They have that knowledge of how Esri software works, and they have those skills to help them be efficient when doing inventory related tasks. So Esri and ArcGIS includes a full suite of products and tools that help support forest data management. That includes tools at the desktop GIS level, server tools, web applications, and mobile applications. So if we look a little bit closer at those different tools, at the desktop tool, their flagship product is ArcGIS Pro. Now, many of you may know that as ArcMap, and ArcGIS Pro is really just the next generation of ArcMap. And this is the powerful GIS analyst tool, something that you can use for really advanced operations, but it's something that a lot of foresters have skills in. On the server side, that includes ArcGIS Server, and more commonly, it's just called ArcGIS Enterprise now. And there's two main components of that we'll be talking about today. One is ArcGIS Online, and that's Esri's cloud-hosted server, and then Portal for ArcGIS, which is really like ArcGIS Online, but it's on-premise, meaning you can have it installed on your servers behind your firewall. And then in terms of apps, ArcGIS provides a wide range of apps that can help people be productive both in the office and in the field. In the mobile realm, there's Field Maps. That's the newest name for their collector product, and Survey 123. And these are powerful apps that you can run on your mobile device to help you access data in the field, collect data, edit data, all in the field. ArcGIS also includes web applications. Right out of the box, things like ArcGIS Online come with a default web map viewer. That's a powerful web-based mapping environment that you have right there in your desktop. But they also have more advanced tools, like their configurable web app builder that allows you to build web applications, and ArcGIS dashboards, a powerful graphical analysis tool. So I've talked about a lot of the strengths of ArcGIS, and all of those are very true, but there's still some gaps between what Esri and ArcGIS can provide and what you need as a part of a forest inventory system. Some of those gaps include data models. So Esri Forestry data model is a great starting point. It's a really nice example of how a data model can be used, and really I mean a database structure can be used in order to collect forestry data. But most of the organizations that we've worked with need custom data models. The way you do your business, the data information that you need to collect is unique to where you work and what you're trying to do. Other gaps include forestry-centric workflows. So many of the ArcGIS workflows just really aren't tailored specifically for forestry work. And I'm thinking of workflows like doing a plot layout using a grid of plots within a stand, using complex business logic, if-then logic. If the tree has a broken top, then a height measurement is required. Data QA and QC. We know there's a lot of logic that's specific to forest inventory. Things like calculating a check cruise score or calculating a specific metric off of trees that were measured in the field. And then finally, integration with other systems. A lot of us use a range of different applications in order to complete our work, and being able to integrate between your GIS and a system that's doing compilation like T-Cruise or a growth and yield system like FES is very important. And ArcGIS simply doesn't provide that out of the box. So if we look at the apps that they do provide, they're really not forestry-centric apps. So Field Maps is a great general GIS data collection tool, but you don't really want to use it for cruising. It's not going to be efficient enough, isn't going to help you collect the high quality data that you need. Similarly, ArcGIS Web App Builder can be used to build very powerful web maps, but it's not going to give you the kinds of workflows you need to do things like plot layout or calculating a check cruise score. So our solution to that is to extend the ArcGIS system. And by this, I mean that we leverage the capabilities of ArcGIS, but then extend them to the forestry-centric needs. So we try to leverage things like the database structure, the security model, and the powerful ways for accessing data. We try to leverage the fact that there are these expert GIS tools that can be very useful for managing your data and powerful web applications and mobile applications. And we especially try to leverage the fact that many organizations have made an investment in both software licenses and the skills of their staff. But then we try to extend that by adding in data models that are forestry-centric. So we have a number of templates that we can provide, and then we also work with our clients to develop custom data models. We extend that by adding more advanced business logic, those if-then rules or check cruise scoring rules that are very complex, but very important for maintaining high-quality inventory data. And then we extend it using forestry-centric workflows, like tools right out of the box that help you do things like plot layout or calculating data quality controls like check cruise scores. And then finally, in order to do that extension or extend the ArcGIS system, we develop forestry-centric web apps and mobile apps. And with the goal of all of these, it's to create happy foresters, easy to use tools that meet forester needs for collecting, analyzing, and accessing inventory data. So here's a quick look at the system that we've developed. And this is sort of a detailed system diagram of our solution. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the components of this, focusing on what the roles are and the data connectivity between the components of the system. So let's start in the middle here with ArcGIS. So ArcGIS can be implemented as ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS. And for most of the rest of this talk, I'm going to be talking about ArcGIS Online. That's the most common pattern that we're seeing. So ArcGIS Online provides three main components for the system. It provides the data model, and so that's the attribute tables and the attribute fields, and even the details about what values are allowed, drop-down lists, range domains, et cetera, that control the values going into the system. So that's the data model component. But it also provides the security. So when you sign into any parts of our system, you're actually signing into ArcGIS. And Esri provides a very powerful, robust, secure authentication system. And then the final component is the data access. In order for everyone to have appropriate access to the system, ArcGIS provides web services where data can be stored and retrieved from the system. So if we look down to the next component, we have ArcGIS Desktop. So ArcGIS Desktop is used early on in projects to help define that data model, but it's also used whenever advanced GIS analysis is needed, because you can still connect that desktop to the data model in ArcGIS to do advanced GIS operations, including things like writing Python scripts or doing other automated processing of data. Desktop GIS is also used for packaging up base maps. A key component of our system is the ability to take large quantities of data offline, and that includes rich high-resolution base maps. So that diagram you see on the left side there, where it shows a micro SD card, that's key to our solution. You can package up large area, high-resolution data, copy it onto a micro SD card, take that data out in the field so you always have very high-resolution, detailed base maps in the field. So now let's look to the left side here where we have mobile map. Mobile Map is a native Android application, which means it operates on Android tablets and phones. It's intended to work in an offline environment. So once you pull data down to the system, all of the operations can happen offline. It is intended to provide everything that a forester needs in the field while conducting field work. That includes navigation, location awareness, so the ability to search for and query features, the ability to collect data. So data can be cruise data, collecting cruise plots and even doing check cruising, but also any other spatial data you may need to collect, including roads, culverts, etc. It can be used to collect stand boundaries or to update those boundaries in the field by doing heads-up digitizing or by using the GPS to collect data. It also has powerful capabilities to collect photos and even perform certain types of analysis right there when you're in the field. Here's a quick look at some of the main user interfaces for Mobile Map. So on the left, you can see the main map-based interface where you can see base map imagery, where you could toggle between different imagery layers and topo maps. You can see a stand boundary and a grid of sample plots. And by selecting one of those sample plots, you can open up the plot form. So that's what we see in the middle, that second image, where data can be entered into the system. And you can see that based on the type of information, there are drop downs, ability to do things like take photos, and basically collect anything. Now, I should point out that the forms you're seeing here are completely configurable. They're based on that data model that we talked about earlier. So if you say that it's a numeric field, you'll get a numeric keyboard and the ability to enter in numeric only numbers. If you give it a predefined list of values, say a species list, you'll have a drop-down list with those species. When it's time to collect cruise data at the plot level, we can hit the tree icon and open up the tree form. And that's the image you see on the right. And the intention there is to mimic the behavior of a cruise tally card, where every tree is a row in that table, and it's quick and efficient way to enter in data. Here you can see keyboard-based entry, but there's also a pop-up entry where you can select things from a pop-up of allowed values. There's lots of powerful tools here, like the ability to open up another form for grading trees, the ability to calculate limiting distance with slope correction, etc. This is something we've been working on for the last 8 years to improve and constantly optimize the efficiency for collecting high quality data when cruising timber. I wanted to take a moment and talk about Android devices just briefly. It's something we decided very early on when we had our first release of Mobile Map at the SAF conference in 2013. We decided to focus in on Android because at that point we felt that was the best mobile operating system for what foresters need in the field. And we revisit that twice a year, looking at the changes in the mobile technology landscape, looking at the available devices, and checking in with our customers, field foresters, about what they are using in the field, what's working, and where they need to see improvements. And every time we've come to the same conclusion, that Android is the ideal operating system for cruising timber. There's a couple reasons for that. One is GPS. So unlike some other operating systems, Android devices have hardware GPS that work even when you're in a Wi-Fi only device. So it's not integrated in with the cell chip like it is for some other devices. Some Android devices have very high resolution or powerful GIS or GPS accuracy. You can easily get Android devices that are waterproof. So lots of devices may claim to be waterproof, but very few actually work well in the rain. And so what we've done is really focused in on devices that can be used in the rain. This typically requires special screen technology. It requires that the screen actually has a digitizer and can be used with an active stylus, or in the case of some of Juniper systems, to have special software like their wet mode. So another aspect of that is ruggedness. So you can get cases for other kinds of devices, but really Android is the only operating system that provides truly rugged devices, things that are military grade or IP68 rugged. And then finally, and I mentioned this earlier, micro SD support. Android provides support for micro SD cards. These are very cheap data storage cards that can be just slid into the device to store high quality, large area base maps. So we've seen people taking out gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of base maps. It might be imagery, it might be topo maps. We've even seen people taking out LiDAR derived canopy height maps or very detailed DEMs, or even drone imagery that were just collected a day or two before. That's a real powerful aspect of Android, is that support for micro SD cards. So if we move to the right side of the system diagram, we have Inventory Manager. So Inventory Manager is a cloud-hosted web application that is used as a complement to Mobile Map. It's used oftentimes before going into the field to help design a cruise, and after coming back from the field to do data quality control and analysis. Some of the tasks you might do would be to create or populate cruise stands, assign stands, or check cruise stands out to staff or to contractors, monitor the progress of a cruise, and then perform data quality controls. We even have capabilities in the system to do compilation using the National Volume Estimation Library, and strong capabilities for exporting data, exporting maps. And that's a key component of that is on the bottom of this diagram where you see external systems called out. So Inventory Manager has been designed to work with a wide range of third-party systems. So T-Cruise, FVS, FPS, Trimble, LRM, Silva, et cetera. So we can export out to standard format files like shape files, KMLs, and Excel files, but also in these dedicated formats that are specifically designed to work with these third-party tools. So here's an example of Inventory Manager showing the screen there. And you can see a case where somebody is searching for a stand, they've clicked on a plot, and on the left side of the screen, or for that image, you can see some of the attributes of the plot. And on the bottom, you can see details about the trees that were collected on that plot, with the ability to do review of the data here, but also interact and edit the data right there in your browser. Inventory Manager provides advanced search capabilities where you can combine multiple attributes and spatial constraints when doing a search to find data. You can use Inventory Manager to perform plot layout using a range of different plot designs. You can manage business rules, and those are those validation rules, like if the tree is this species, then you must collect that information. It can also be used to create check cruise scoring rules and apply automated check cruise scoring to calculate accuracy based on each cruiser and the data that they've collected. And an important aspect, which we'll talk about here in just a minute in more detail, is the integration that Inventory Manager can do with ArcGIS dashboards. As I mentioned earlier, it plays a key role in integration by exporting and importing data to and from other systems where needed. Some of the supported formats include shapefile, KML, Excel, CSV, solo waypoints, and then specific file formats that are used to integrate with other systems like FVS, T-Cruise, FPS, Silva, and Trimble LRM. So when we think about that whole system and try to pull it all together into how the system is used by foresters, this typical workflow can help paint a picture of how data moves through the system. You can think of it as a daily workflow that a forester might do. So at the start of this workflow diagram, we're going to start in the upper left where it says define stands. And imagine that I'm a forester. I need to go out and cruise. I've been given a task of going and cruising a stand. And if you see on the left side, we've got a box that says Inventory Manager. That's the box in blue. And we have a box that says Mobile Map, and that's the box on the right in green. So what we're going to do is walk through that workflow here and start off in Inventory Manager, then go into Mobile Map and back into Inventory Manager. So what that typical workflow would look like is I'd start by defining the stands. I might be copying that stand from another source, say a shapefile that somebody provided to me. I might be copying it from an enterprise geodatabase. If I had a geodatabase that had stands that needed to be cruised, I start by identifying that spatial area. I could also be just heads up digitizing it in the context of Inventory Manager. Once I've got the stand selected and I have its geometry and some of its attributes ready, I can do the plot layout. And in Inventory Manager, we've got a number of different plot designs that can be used to create that grid of plots. Once the plots have been created, they're stored in ArcGIS, which means we can change over to mobile map and download those data. And anybody that's working on that cruise can be pulling down those data from ArcGIS. So there's no need to, email shape files or pass files around. Because Inventory Manager is writing those data to ArcGIS, mobile map can just instantly connect to that and download those data. Once the data are downloaded to mobile map, you can leave the office, leave your internet connection, head out in the field, because the rest of the functionality in mobile map all happens offline. So there's capabilities to search for those data. If you had maybe tasked with several stands or plot layouts, you could find the ones that you want. You can use the integrated GPS and navigation capabilities to navigate to the plots. Once you're at the plots, you can review the data that's available there, collect your cruise data right there to that very efficient tree data collection screen. You could be editing plot level or stand level information and repeating that step where you're navigating to the next plot, collecting the cruise data, navigating to the next plot. And finally, once you've completed all of the plots, you head back to the office, you simply press upload and the data are stored safe and sound in ArcGIS. At that point, you can sit back down at your laptop or desktop PC and begin to do your analysis. You'd be reviewing your data, verifying that all data were successfully uploaded, performing data quality checks, doing analysis right there in Inventory Manager, or going to the next step where you're integrating. You might be exporting those data to generate some kind of a report or to generate a file for use for another system like T-Cruise. So when we talk about external systems, I wanted to touch on two here that are very powerful third-party systems that a lot of our clients integrate with. And so the first is FES. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with FES. The Forest Vegetation Simulator is a powerful tool for growth and yield. One of the things that's so great about it is that it's developed and freely available through the U.S. Forest Service, and it is well documented and well supported. So we've focused on using the new web-based interface for FES. And what Inventory Manager does is it produces FES-ready SQLite databases. So you select data within Inventory Manager, export it and check the box to export it as an FES database. And it generates an FES-ready SQLite database that can be brought right into FES. It can be used for doing any of the volume calculation or modeling of tree growth, doing prescriptions, etc. And we've even extended that FES export to support things like generating custom groups to help with your data management within FES, and also supporting things like non-FES attributes, if you want to include any arbitrary attributes into your FES export for data management purposes. And we've got ways to support even more complex plot designs. If you have multiple nested plots within your design, we can handle that by converting the data into TPA as we're exporting the data for FES. A second system that I wanted to touch on briefly was ArcGIS dashboards. I mentioned that earlier as one of the strengths of the ArcGIS system. Well, what ArcGIS dashboards does, in case you're not familiar with it, is it provides a easy to configure visual or graphical interface for developing charts and graphs like what you see in the image here to the right. It's an out-of-the-box tool that comes from Esri. It doesn't require software development skills. This is something that GIS analysts and foresters can do using their ArcGIS online accounts. They're powerful real-time charts and tables, so these update as data are added into the system. And they can display and analyze any data that's stored within ArcGIS. So it's not just stands and plots. Any other data that you have can be used with ArcGIS dashboards to generate these powerful visual analysis tools. Because they're pulling from the same data that Mobile Map and Inventory Manager are writing to, it means that they can take any of the data being managed by the system and provide charts and graphs of those data. And what we do to integrate with that is we simply allow those ArcGIS dashboards to be displayed right in Inventory Manager. So you have that powerful graphics tool within Inventory Manager. And for many of our clients, their GIS analysts are building these over time and simply just add in new dashboards as they become available. All right, with that, I'm going to hand the presentation back over to Darian Yawn, who's going to talk a little bit more about the integration with T-Cruise.
All right. So we'll pick up on slide 24. All right. All right, so Kerry mentioned external systems, and the mobile map inventory manager solution has the ability to interface with a bunch of external systems, but why use T-Cruise? Well, for your cruise compilation. Well, like Kerry mentioned earlier, we're trying to use the best tool for the job. We're not asking our GIS system to do complex, tree merchandising, right, and reporting. So why use T-Cruise? Well, T-Cruise is a proven and accepted solution. It's been on the market for 20 plus years. Definitely a well known in the Southeast, but has got quite a bit of usage in the Northeast and in the Lake States. It was developed by an expert, Dr. Tom Matney from Mississippi State University, who we like to pick on Dr. Matney because he may be a little bit eccentric, maybe, and probably pretty tough on students too. I'm glad I didn't have to have him for biometrics or mensuration. But he is a unique individual in that he is a biometrician and a programmer. And he started working on the program probably in the early 90s. The program started off as just a quick and dirty cruise compiler for summer camp. And then in the early 2000s, he was approached by, at that time, someone from Hagloff in the US that needed a cruise compiler for the US. Maybe their European version didn't work well for US markets. So Dr. Matney quickly obliged. And I guess I've been working with the program for close to 20 years now, doing tech support. And I can say, you heard the term, we've come a long way, baby. Well, we've come a long way in those 20 years since it's hit the market. And have a real close relationship with Dr. Matney. Probably talk to him every couple of days. He does a great job for us in the development. He is assisted in the development by Dr. Emily Schultz, who is a colleague of his there at Mississippi State also. And the program has come a long way because of customer feedback. Okay, good ideas from customers have been implemented. Bad ideas can get implemented too. We just handle those as a custom DLL that's only visible to those folks that make those suggestions. And the good ideas we leave in there for we leave the good ideas in there for all the other users to take advantage of. So it is a customizable and flexible application. Let's face it, because it has to be. Okay. Everyone wants something a little bit different. If there's one thing that I've learned in 20 years of doing tech support and working with software is, you may not think so, but everybody wants something just a little bit different. And we try to accommodate them. And so what we try to do is to have a solution that is very flexible and that allows you to get what you want with minimal programmer intervention. Okay, we'll call it that. So we can do complex customization that does require some custom DLL, some custom code to be written, but we try to handle as much as we can without programmer intervention. All right, and like I said, the T-Cruise is it's a proven solution that's been around for a long time, and it's already a part of various other systems. And we like to think that it plays well with others. Okay, so here's some examples. Starting in the upper left is our what we'll call our legacy solution using Trimble Solo Forest and RTI from F4 Tech. This has been around for quite almost 20 years probably as well. And as part of that system is the cruise compiler. Voice-directed tally systems. I think Elizabeth mentioned in one of the earlier presentations today about the Robo Forester. Well, voice-directed tally systems, you got the helmet with the little eyepiece that looks like the Google Glass and a microphone there, so you can speak out your species, DBH, heights, and et cetera, and it'll even handle it'll handle dialects like mine. So, okay. All right. Another integration is TMP Cruise. This is Train Navigator Pro from Trimble. T-Cruise Mobile from Android is coming soon. For Android is coming soon. T-Cruise is also a part of the Hagloff caliper application where T-Cruise can run on the caliper and it can do the compilation. Okay, so like we said, we think it plays well with other systems and very well with the MBG Inventory Manager and mobile map applications. Okay, the current platform is PC-based. I know the focus here is on cloud-based, but code is written in place to implement T-Cruise engine, which can be available for clients who do need the cloud-based environment processing. Okay, just some bullet points here about T-Cruise features. Calculating volumes. Well, what T-Cruise tries to do, the idea is to give foresters all the tools they need. And one big component of that is good volume functions. Okay, and T-Cruise are almost, I think there's 499, correct me, I said 500, there's 499 built-in volume functions. The majority of these are tree taper equations that use DBH and a height to a set diameter top that are species specific. And from those, you can estimate diameter at any point on the stem that makes complex merchandising possible. Okay, we do have some simpler Misavage and Girard functions that use DBH and merch height as well, should you need those. Users also have the ability to input their own volume tables. If you've got dead-on volume tables you believe in and have lived and died by for years and years, we can handle those, as well as custom user-defined volume and ratio equations. All right, if you have your own proprietary taper equations, we can implement those through a custom DLL, or we can directly import those. So I think we've got something for everybody there on the volume function front. Okay, all right, T-Cruise uses a template-based data model. And this template is really kind of the basis of the Esri data model. Okay, some of the parameters there, or all your cruise parameters, are stored in that template, and those can be the acceptable cruise methods, plot size, and base layer factors, your custom species list, products, grades, and sorts, the volume functions assignments, which are assigned by species, and your merchandising specs would give you the general, the minimum DBH for a product, the minimum top diameters for products, minimum segment lengths, you get the idea, form class, and if there's any other merchandising constraints. So here's an example of the merchandising window in T-Cruise, and the idea here is for the average forester to be able to process a cruise, go back and make some tweaks, because we may have a scenario where, hey, this mill will pay us, X number of dollars to an 8-inch top for saw timber, but hey, the mill down the road said they'll give us this to a 7-inch top. Well, we want to make it very easy for the forester to open up merch specs, make a change, and rerun the same data. Okay, run the same data through several different merchandising scenarios. Okay, so the form here just shows fields for the different minimum top diameters, minimum merchantable lengths, multiple factors, that kind of thing. Okay, so T-Cruise does have a sophisticated processing engine. And like I said, we want to use, have the ability to use multiple merchandising scenarios. And you can either do this by the on-the-fly changes, like I just showed a minute ago, opening up the merchandising window, making the changes, rerun, or you can implement the changes by applying the data to different templates. Okay, we can handle more complicated merchandising scenarios by custom DLLs. If you want to do something out of the ordinary, you want to take the first butt log to off, and then after that you want to merchandise everything in 24 feet segments. We can handle scenarios like that. If you have a really hot export market and you want to be able to break down your different segments by the diameter top, like you got a certain price for 12-inch top saw timber versus 10 versus 8. We can make those kind of calculations and break the stem down. Okay, here's an example of the way that the program, and I won't steal too much of Mark's thunder here with the data entry, but you have the ability to do auto merchandising where you can do a very simple species deviation height entry, and then allow the program to do auto merchandising based on your specs. Or if you want to do some more complicated manual merchandising, you have the ability to open up a form where you can enter each segment of the tree and you define what the length, the grade, and the defect amount or percent for that individual segment. Okay, and once you've done all that complex merchandising, we need a good way to report our results. So TCREAS has built-in 20+ standard Excel reports. Another thing that I found is that when it comes to reporting, everybody wants something a little bit different. And our goal here was we knew that we couldn't satisfy every user, but we like to think that we can get 60 or 70% here. And these reports are also a good starting point or jumping off point if you do need to do customization. Okay, I want to show you just a few reports. Here's a good example of a basic cruise info and stats, give you the number of plots, the mean per acre tons, basal area value, what have you. You can input those. We have the ability to do sample size estimates based on your amount of allowable error and percent confidence. Calculate other variables like standard deviation, standard error, and coefficient of variation. Whoops, let's get back here. Oh, got ahead of myself. All right, so here's another example of a summary by product. Just a quick summary of by species, the different products for the stand total, per acre, and average tree. Here's the same report, but expanded out by DBH. We also added the ability on the end of this one to output the average height, say to the average total height, or the average height, total height, average height pulpwood top, average height solid top. I find this is useful for especially procurement organizations negotiating with the mill for pricing. They want to see what they're getting. Okay, here is an example of a log distribution report, a little bit simpler design report that is based to give you the number of logs in, or by DBH class, give you the number of trees with the X number of logs, like half a log all the way up to 6 logs. Okay, here's an example of a grade summary where if you need to do the custom manual merchandising where you actually enter the each tree segment and you want a good concise way to report that. The grade screen does, the grade reports do that. All right, so we're talking about TCREAS and Inventory Manager. If should you decide to implement the solution, if you don't already have TCREAS, it's a relatively inexpensive add-on for you. All you really need is a TCREAS desktop license with the Excel reports, TCREAS Enterprise Import license, which does the crosswalk between TCREAS going back to Inventory Manager, to your Esri data model, and you need a TCREAS template, which we're glad to help with that. We are glad to help customers implement those kind of changes because we'd rather help you get it right on the front end than to help you reverse engineer bad data on the back end. And I can speak from experience there. Okay, so total investment for folks that don't already have TCREAS is less than $1,500. Okay, if you already have TCREAS, maybe you only need the enterprise import. Okay, so pretty simple and effective and affordable to implement that. Okay, so what about legacy systems? Maybe you don't have the budget to go to get the full meal deal. Remember the Dairy Queen full meal deal? Maybe you don't have the budget to get a handheld, to a completely new solution. Well, we do have the ability to take legacy data from the old Windows CE versions of TCREAS and to import that directly into Inventory Manager. Okay, so that was a quick blast through TCREAS integration and why it's a good idea. And I'm going to pass the mic off to Mark, who's going to take us a round trip in 10 easy steps. Maybe. All right. All right, thanks, Darren. Everybody still awake? You guys looking out for your numbers? Good job. Speaking of the the gray hair joke. I find the more I get, the more unsolicited advice I give. So part of my gray hair, listen to Darren, have a chat with him first, because it's so much easier to try and set up your T-Cruise templates first, get it correctly instead of trying to sort out bad data. But hey, let's just take a quick run through. As we tell people, as we demonstrate this, oftentimes it takes longer to talk about it than to actually use it. You'll find that that's the case now. You're doing good. You've been in this about 50 minutes, and we're just going to zap through it. So hang on for the ride. All right, so this is our plan. We're going to start off in Inventory Manager. We're going to digitize the stand. We're going to allocate plots. Boom, we're going to go ready to the handheld device that has mobile map installed. We're going to download and access the data, create a base map. We're going to navigate to the plots, enter our data, and upload the data. We're going to come back to Inventory Manager and review the data. We're going to export it out, and then we're going to bring it back into T-Cruise. All right, so just a same workflow, just a different visualization. Realize that the key word here is configuration. You can have a workflow entirely different. All right, you might recognize this stand. Give you 3 guesses. First 2 don't count. So just outside the door here. All right, so we've allocated some plots. We digitized the stand, now we're allocating some plots. Plot design, you have a lot of options there. This is the ending result. So in this color scheme, red means plan for both plots and stands. You can specify a lot of the details that go into the plot size, plot type, etc. All right, we've migrated to mobile map. We're still in a connected environment. We're going to sign into ArcGIS Online, kind of mentioned earlier. We're going to access the feature service, initialize the database, and download. Pretty easy. Sign in. Access feature service. Nice thing about the app is that you get kind of results menus. Pretty important to change. Pay attention to those. Make sure there's no errors. It's pretty good before you go out in the field. Make sure you're ready to go. Download the results. Again, check for no errors. All right, and here are the results. Zooming in to our area of interest, we could use this, but maybe we also want an air photo on the backdrop. So no problem, within the mobile map, we will create a base map. Again, still in a connected environment. Select download base map, and it begins to download. Now you have a bunch of choices from the Esri stack of base maps, some topos, air photos. I chose an air photo for this one. Gives you the results. Do a little bit of file management, voila. So now do you recognize the stand a little bit better? Right outside the door. All right, now we're ready to select our stand and navigate to it. Well, we better get going because we have a long drive. Exactly, down from Virginia. So you can kind of tell where this was created at. Within the cursor, you'll see that there's a direction given as well, and in the upper left-hand corner, some further directions as well. And step-by-step driving instructions. Now, once we've arrived at our plot, or we're ready to start collecting our data, we're going to select what layer we want to edit. Of course, in this instance, it's plots. The screen that you saw previously, the tally screen. If you're the type that likes pop-up menus, you can do that. And if you don't, well, you don't have to have them. So we've entered in our plot data, include some log data, which we'll review quickly. So we're ready to upload. Now we've uploaded, or we've exited that, and you'll see that the symbology has changed for us automatically, just letting us know that in this case, green means cruised. So we're ready to upload. Select the upload button, we get a results menu, good deal. It worked as expected. Ready to review it in Inventory Manager. Because ArcGIS Online is the host, pretty much near real-time accessibility. Again, when you upload, you have to be in a connected environment. So the tree data right there should match 1-for-1 from what you saw on a tally screen. Now I'm just bringing up log data so you can QC that as well. Now we're going to move on and prepare it to export to T-Cruise. Go through, provide the necessary files and defaults. And then where the arrow's at, it's producing a SQLite file that we will bring into T-Cruise. And we're going to hurry up and get done. So we switched over to T-Cruise, import, under file, import, and import MBG cruise file. Going to review our data, produce reports, much like Darian just talked about, and gladly answer any of your questions or do the best we can.